I remember him standing up to the biggest authority within the squadron. You absolutely wouldn't do it. But what he taught me was like, look, you've got to stand up for what is right.
You go first, my love. Go on, after you.
No, I insist. After you.
Okay. So my name is Jody, and I am kind of the head now of Former Forces. I spent 22 years in the Army, in the RLC, Royal Logistic Corps, and got out in November.
Hi, I'm Chris Hutchinson, affectionately known as Hutch, or Chris for some people. A product of Former Forces. 22 years in the Royal Engineers, and left last year, April, and now currently a part of CERTS as a result of Former Forces.
So in this beautiful green box, we have some surprise questions.
Oh, God.
So what we're going to do is we're going to pull a question out each and ask. That's what we're going to do. It's exciting. This box belongs to Lou and she loves it. So we're going to be very careful with it.
I feel like I've been set up for some reason. So go for it, Jody.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, you can go.
No, go for it.
Right. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. How exciting is this? There's no snakes in here, so you're all right.
Oh.
Right, there we go. First question, are you ready?
Oof.
Okay, so which movie or TV show gets military life hilariously wrong or scarily right?
This is a challenge one. So I don't really watch a lot of movies. What I would say is I think BBC's got one of them bomb disposal movie that goes on at the minute. Is it Trigger Point?
Trigger Point.
Trigger
Yeah,
Point.
you got Trigger Point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is one of them. There's some stuff in there that, probably out to the birds. Don't ask me exactly what scenes.
Yeah.
And I think Hurt Locker had a few areas were very questionable as well.
I don't think it's necessarily like what they get right or what they get wrong. I think what frustrates me more than anything. So, you know, when you're watching a program, there's always like, especially if there's a military scene in it, or there's someone who's acting as a military personnel and their kit is in shit state and their berry is awful. Well, and I'm just like, I don't get how you could get that so wrong.
To be fair, I wouldn't be watching that movie. The minute I look at it and the kid in a shit state, I'll switch off. But to be honest,
the issue is, it's these programs where you're halfway through the series. So then you're like, well, I can't give up on it now. But every time you see that military person, or whatever the scene may be with the military person in, it just infuriates you. It's like the berry with the cat badge.
Yeah, right.
Dead center.
Yeah.
But apart from that, so I think there was one with. I did watch the one with Michelle Keegan.
Go on.
Or what's it called? Do you remember that? Has anyone seen that? There's one with Michelle Keegan where she's a medic, and it was actually not too bad. I think as the seasons went on, they seemed to get it much better.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, I'm like you. I don't tend to watch military films.
No, I get put off on it pretty quickly.
I do. I tell you what I do like though is I like the ones, the American ones with the Lone Survivor. So you got Lone Survivor. What's the one with Bradley Cooper where he's a sniper as well?
I can't remember. I think I vaguely can remember. Yeah, as I said, I'm not a movie buff,
where obviously they're based on soldiers in the US Army or US Navy, and they were pretty good. I actually really enjoyed them. I can't remember. I know I've Lone Survivor, so I know that's with Mark Wahlberg, and there's 4 or 5 of them, isn't there? And then I can't remember what the other one is with Bradley Cooper, where he's a sniper. And it's pretty brutal, but it's really good. But I suppose they get it. It's Americans, isn't it? So they do seem to get it right.
Yeah, they spread the truth and stretch everything. To be fair, well, that's the Americans for you. So I guess it's my turn. Okay, where should I go?
Oh, you're actually mixing it up.
I shouldn't mix it up. I think I've been set up. So
I know which one you picked anyway. No, you were meant to pick that one.
If there were a military blooper reel of your time in service, what would the highlight be?
I think the one that stands out the most for me. So it was when I was based in Germany. So I was based in Gütersloh. It was back in, so I don't know whether it's before or after the first Iraq. I think it was before, actually. I think it was when I first got there. So I got there around the end of 2006. And you know what Germany's like?
Yeah.
It's just, you're constantly on the piss. So as soon as you finish CO's PT on a Friday, you're in the squadron bar, roll into the regimental bar. So then, it would, and then you'd go downtown and it would just be, so from the Friday through to the Monday, it was just an absolute blur. But I was deploying, so we were doing a NATO exercise in Poland on the Monday, and it was like a really early start, like 6 o'clock start in the morning, be outside the vehicles, and I was driving an Oshkosh with one of my muckers. And I remember getting in must have been about 4:30, 5 o'clock on the Monday morning, and I hadn't packed any of my stuff. So I was panic packing. I was like shoving all this shit into my burger.
RLC for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just packing it all in, panicking, absolutely still pissed, like trying to get everything sorted because I knew that everyone would be waiting for me. So I got to the Oshkosh and we were about to set off, and my co-driver, bless him, he was like, "Joe, just get your head down. You're absolutely still steaming." So I was like, "Yeah, no worries." Anyway, so we went through to the border of Germany, stopped off for 8 hours, got my head down. But then when we got to the other side, I was like, right, I'm absolutely hanging out here now. It's probably about 12, 13 hours on the road. Absolutely hanging out here. Can't wait to get in my DOS bag, just get my head down, because we had a big chunk of period off before we started the exercise. So we got everything set up. We were in these nice little hangars, and I was like, yeah, I'm really cold, like, 'cause it was in Poland.
Get your driver's hours in, right?
Absolutely. Well, we need them, mate, don't we? To supply you. And then, so I was unpacking my burger, and I was like, oh, I'm well excited for this. Pulled my sleeping bag out, and I was like, you have got to be fucking joking. Bearing in mind, this is in the height of winter in Poland. I pulled out my jungle sleeping bag. So I hadn't even packed my winter sleeping bag. I'd pulled my jungle sleeping bag out. And then literally, for the rest of the exercise, I was known as Jungle Girl.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I literally had to go around and I was begging people to give me their spare sleeping bags. And I ended up having to put on about 3 or 4 sleeping bags for the rest of the exercise. It was awful.
Nah. I can relate in some instances, to be fair, because a lot of times when we go places, whether UK or Europe or the rest of the world, we tend to move in pretty light. And typically when we've got other arms there, other forces, other nations, it would be a Brit thing to sort of get around where you can, scrounge off anyone you can, get everything you need to make sure that your little space is all sorted.
I think as well, I think it definitely, it kind of depends on the rank as well, because obviously I was an absolute junior. I'd only been in the army a couple of years, so I was just enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying Germany, and it was, I think after that exercise, I kind of was like, right.
You learn your lessons.
You learn your lessons, and you're like, right, I need to get a grip a little bit now. So instead of going on the piss from the Friday to the Monday, I just went on the piss the Friday and the Saturday.
Or pack your kit before you go on the piss.
I squared my shit away on the Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Rest to know that if we're going to Poland, I've got my winter sleeping bag with me.
No, brilliant.
But yeah, that was that's one that will always stick with me.
Nice.
Schoolboy.
All right.
Right.
Guess it's over to you.
I'm just going to go to the top one. Okay, so did you ever have a moment where you thought, yep, this could only happen in the military?
Wow. Okay, there are a lot of occasions, I would say. There's a lot of stuff that happens within the military. Both taking the piss, having a fun and a laugh, or more serious, and some of the situations would probably be life-threatening as well. But I'm not going to go that dark.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, probably some of those stuff you talk about is in the days when we normally have your squadron or your troop bars. Not going to be too explicit, but you're probably standing on the bar having a drink. As you reference a commanding officer's PT session or something like that, and you probably see some stuff start to happen in the bar, and you've got to reconsider, should I be here or should I be walking away? But typically those type of scenarios, especially when you talk about having a drink and going out on the piss, this is generally in those areas where certain questionable stuff would happen. But thankfully, what I would say is the military has changed, and a lot of those stuff have been sort of swept out the way.
I agree with
rightly so in a lot of cases.
Absolutely, and I feel like it was kind of that drunk culture, and it's kind of like you're voluntold to go on the piss, even though if you didn't want to, or you don't drink, or
especially in the early days, because in the early days, and once again for context, these stuff I've stopped, but boy, in the early days, as part of you welcome, let's say, being welcome within your troops, and you would be told you're going for a drink. I don't drink. You do now.
Of course it is,
and sometimes you're not just drinking from a bottle, you're drinking from a slightly bigger cup or a bigger bottle. And instead of taking sips, you're probably been encouraged to neck it. So those are the type of things that you probably could point at in a social setting.
Absolutely. I think there's loads of things. I think it's anything from, it depends where you want to go with this, but it's anything kind of like show praise, like where would a civilian company give someone a show praise because their kit's in shit state or something? Do you know what I mean? And it's just, little things like that where you drive past the guard room, you're going out and you can see like 6 or 7 people stood there waiting to be inspected. You're like, typical army. That will only happen in the
army. And one of them there on the knees, brasso in the brasso line, right?
Sweeping up leaves when there's a massive tree.
Painting the grass as well.
I agree with that. Yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
See, I'm gonna
go for the top. Well, we don't know. It's not finished yet, is it? What moment from your service will always stay with you?
I don't think it was a specific moment. So when I first joined and I went through phase training, one of the instructors who took me through basic training, she was phenomenal. She was a tiny, fierce full screw, but she made me stand up. She made me stand to attention. Do you know what I mean? And since when I passed out and I went into my phase 3 establishments and I got posted and stuff like that, I always said I want to be that person. I want to go and change people's lives, but I want to change them for the good. So I worked up to become an instructor at Pirbright, which was amazing. So I did all my courses, and I was lucky enough to actually do that for 2.5 years in Pirbright. And I'd like to think that I gave other people, not necessarily just females, but, other soldiers, that will to push on and move forward and potentially do the same thing as what I did. And I think that the whole 2.5 years for me were probably one of the highlights of my army career, because I just loved instructing, but in the right way, not this old school shout at, get kicked on it, get kicked in the head in the ranges, all that old stuff that happened to us when we joined. Like you said, it's completely changed now. So actually for me, it was changing people's minds. You don't have to go through it. You don't have to put up with that. It's a completely different army now, and everyone needs to have a little bit of respect for everyone. Yeah,
definitely. And that's key, to be fair. And obviously this is your question, but it for me sort of brings back a moment where I was a young soldier. I think I was still a sapper at the time. So that's you basically all the training, for those who are not aware. The Royal Engineers got slightly different terminologies in some cases. So sapper would be equivalent to a private, and went to my unit and I had a sergeant. It didn't look particularly robust more than the ordinary, but he was a solid guy. And I remember him standing up to the biggest authority within the squadron for something that was right. We weren't in the wrong. It was me and 2 other lads. We weren't in the wrong, but it was perceived that we were in the wrong. And he stood up to authority and showed a lot of backbone to people that you wouldn't expect him to do. So we're talking about QMs and OCs and having it back and forth. And in those days, it's probably you wouldn't do it. QMs. Yeah, you absolutely wouldn't do it. But what he taught me was like, look, you've got to stand up for what is right.
Absolutely.
And do it robustly and do it without fear. And I've always carried that with me.
Yeah, I love that story, because I feel like that's something that I think people need to push forward. Like, it's too easy to blame someone else so that it takes the pressure off you and the blame off you. Well, actually, just have the balls to turn it, especially if you've, fucked up or something like that. Don't blame someone else. Just
exactly.
And especially, and even the situation like that, where you kind of like a situation where you could have got blamed for it, but someone stuck up for you and said, well, no, it wasn't them.
Absolutely, definitely. And because you can imagine a young private sapper being told off by the QM's department from the top of the QM's department and blamed for hundreds of thousands of shit that went down, and someone standing up saying, no, that's bullshit, that didn't fucking happen, it's not him, it's not them, look closer to home, and doing it in a public forum where people had to stand down. So I've definitely taken away a lot from that, and I've carried that with me.
Yeah. You'll always remember them.
Yeah,
You'll always remember him as
definitely.
well.
I still speak to him now. I still speak to him
That's
now.
brilliant.
Yeah.
You just don't. It's people like that where you're like, yeah.
But I think so. The result of that is the respect goes a long way, because once everything comes out the murky side and people start realizing what happens, his respect went up levels, because everyone's thinking, well done for doing that. I probably wouldn't, but well done, mate. And then we as his subordinate at the time thinking, absolutely, I'll go anywhere with you. And we would. And we did in cases. We go anywhere and do anything.
Yeah, because you know he's got your back.
Because of that moment.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
brilliant. I like that.
There we are.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you know it was time to leave the army?
Wow. So I probably had two major false starts. I think the one that stood out to me initially was 2008, 9. It was rough. It was tough. We were going away back to back. It was a time when you were doing an operational tour and you're meant to have some time off, but when you come back, you would be posted to another unit, and that unit is getting prepared to go. And tough luck is that you are going. So even though policies was like, okay, you need to have a break between deployments, and these deployments could be 6-7 months. And if you're lucky, you get it extended. But you would do that and come back to the UK, get a little rest and recuperation, and then typically we'd move units, and then we'd go to a unit who's preparing to deploy. So the pressure was high then. I had the young kids then, and I thought, I'm going to go. Didn't actually press the button, because on the side I was trying to see what I could do at that age, and it didn't work out, so I stayed in. And then after that point, your pension trap then, because you're thinking, okay, I've hit the half pension, what am I going to do? So you carried on, doesn't it? You carried on. And then I think the last 2 years, it was a thought in my head. And then I finally made a decision at 21 and a half year point that, you know what, this is me, because I've paid the price. My family has paid the price. And there was other things sort of going on in the background, which sort of cemented my mind to say, you know what, it's time to make that leap now, make that step. And to be fair, I have not regretted it. I'm happy.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's inevitable, isn't it? At the end of the day, I was kind of the same with you. So I could have served up till 2026.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of outside factors. So, for example, Georgia, my wife, she'd fallen pregnant with our first child. I was living up in Scarborough in our house and commuting to DST. She was down in the Cotswolds. And I just was like, we can't do this. I want to be a part of a life. And, I could have spent another 2 years up there, and I was just like, I'm not prepared to do this. So I kind of did all the figures, with the pension, what potentially we'd lose. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, listen, at the end of the day, I'm just jumping ship early.
Yeah.
I'm just jumping ship 2 years early. It's going to absolutely no effect to me. So that was my story. I think I just kind of just decided at that moment where I was like you, family comes first.
I think, when you definitely know. And I think for those who are still serving, I'm not saying it's right for everyone to jump and go, but I think there comes a point where you have to make the decision whether you're gonna, for those of us who reach to the rank where you can sort of switch over and go to commissioned officer, or you get to the top of that tree and you think, you know what, it's time to go. But I think we all got to make that decision, and as you rightly say, for me, if I did stay, I would be kicking the can down the road. And I thought, let's do it now.
I think it's a natural, sometimes as well, what you find is it's one of them natural reactions for soldiers who've had a really shit day or a shit week, or so they've been deployed and they don't want to go on exercise. So their first reaction is, I'm signing off. And it is, isn't it? Like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'm signing off. And it's what I would say to people is just take a step back. Like, it's not forever.
Yeah.
Things change, and
definitely.
Just don't go to was it 7 clicks?
7 clicks of justice. Yeah, 7 clicks of justice. And just, I've had to talk a lot of people off the brink.
Off the ledge.
A lot of times. And just for context, when you're leaving as well, you've got, especially the younger soldiers, you've got to have a chat with your chain of command. You don't have to talk to them before you hit the 7 clicks of justice. But as a part of that process, you have to sort of demonstrate what you're going to do. And it's typically at that time when I'll be talking to someone and putting the figures on a paper and say, okay, this is what you're on now. For example, if we're talking about monetary value, because that's easy to sort of make reference to, how does that relate to what you'll be doing in Civil Street? How does that relate to your family, your family life? For a lot of people, especially service families, they live within the catchment area of the unit, and they might be having, call it, subsidized accommodation, right? Because it's a little bit cheaper.
Absolutely.
And when the realities of moving from that area and moving to where you'll be eventually settling, and the implications of that in terms of costs, and if you don't have your own property and school and all that stuff. So it's a big decision for a lot of people. But what I would say is, we're here as former forces. So when you decide to hit the 7 clicks of justice, reach out to us, and we'll absolutely help you through that pathway and try to get you into something that's suitable for you in Civilian Street.
That's what we're here for, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Go on then, hit me with it.
Okay.
I don't like that one.
Okay, no, it's not that bad. It's not bad. It's not that bad. What piece of military gear do you secretly miss the most?
Oh, wow. Okay. Military gear.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, I didn't handle my kit in. But I can't
it's no on record.
No, delete that. I think for me, so I've obviously kept a few pairs of boots.
Yeah.
I love the boots.
Yeah.
I got a pair of Vacus and lowers, had them for years. And you know, when they just, for me, they fit you perfectly. And I'm like, any walks I go on, they're there with me.
Yeah.
As well as the liner bags.
Oh, yes.
Liner bags.
Yes,
absolutely. I kept a few of them as well. I was like, I'm not paying 30, 40 quid each for a couple of pairs of liner bags.
Yeah.
So I kept liner bags as well for my day sacks, and Axel's day sack as well. When we go hiking. But yeah, I think for me it'd probably be like some of the kit is really good. So like, but boots for me were a massive one, because I think that's where I always spent the money.
Yeah.
You know, so then I kept all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree with boots. I do still have a couple of pairs.
On record.
Yeah, on record. But on the other side, all those boots would just be burnt. Okay. Yeah. But boots are definitely good. I've got some good pair of gloves. Although I think I actually did buy them gloves. I know scratcher gloves. I did buy them myself. Some seal skin gloves. I did buy them myself. But
boots, you must have. Jesus, you didn't get them issues.
Exactly. So yeah, boots is probably a bit the big one. I use it especially when I'm cutting guard. So yeah.
Boots. Yeah. We're in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not alone. There we go. Over to you.
Okay. I'd say we're almost there, but we're absolutely not.
No, we're not.
Okay, so what one tip would you give to service leavers?
I'll start at the top. Network. I think as soldiers, not so much within the officer space, but definitely as soldiers, I don't think we fully understand the power of networking outside our military circle.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are in roles where we are discouraged to go on applications such as LinkedIn, for example. There's a lot more that we could use, but I'll use LinkedIn for this example. And because we're not networking and we don't understand what's in Civic Street and how to sort of match what we're doing in the military with the civilian industry, and the military is doing a lot of good work in terms of getting certification equal to what's in Civilian Street. So the military is sort of dealing with that. But I think without that networking piece and building up that network outside of the military, I think if you don't do that, you probably will struggle when you're coming out initially. Yeah. Especially if you're condensing your transition down to a year. So top tip for anyone who is leaving: network, and do some more network. In addition to that, reach out to any ex-military personnel on LinkedIn. My experience and a lot of other people's experience that have left is that when you reach out to a military person, we're all busy, but they tend to take the time out to have a chat with you. And even if it's a chat, a reassuring chat, or a chat to point you in the right direction or give you another option, it's always good to do. And no question is a silly question. I know we say it in the military a lot of times, but especially when you're speaking to a person who's left the military and now in civilian industry, ask all the questions.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, it's prep early.
Yeah.
So what I've seen is, and it's kind of like a reoccurring issue, is people aren't prepping early enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when you're going to get out, whether it's after 4 years,
Yeah.
after 10 years, after 22 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
whatnot. Prep early. You know, at some point, your army career is going to come to an end. So prep early, whether it's 5 years before you get out, start doing courses, you know, start looking for which direction you want to go, and know which direction you want to go as well.
I fully agree with that, 100%. But can I challenge it a little bit?
Of course you can, go for it.
So the nature of what we do, and I had this conversation with someone years ago, and I said I wasn't going to fall for all of it, but I did. And I think I understand the reason why. Because we're all people trying to achieve, and we're competitive, and we're trying to push for that next rank. What tends to happen is we're thinking, we've got 2 years to resettle once we get to a certain stage, right? And we tend to sort of put the military stuff ahead of our civilian stuff, and our objectives. Every year we'll sit down, we'll set. So I normally tell my troops to set. Okay, I need minimum of 6 military objectives, and I need 2 personal objectives. And if I was to put a percentage on it, I would say 70% of the time we're doing our media review. The military objectives will be up there. 80% close to complete, some of them completed. And the civilian objectives will probably be a 10% haven't been started. And I think the reason for that is because when you're in the military, you're all focused on military stuff. And this exercise, that tour, that course. Okay, I really like to do that civilian course, but I tell you what, even though it's part of your CPD and we've agreed it, this deployment sort of trumps that a little bit. So let's do it next year. And you tend to find that can get kicks down the road. And I can use myself as an example, and I've told a lot of people that my standard learning credits, I did not use them until I'm in my last year, and I decided I'm actually going. And when I sat back and look and think how much money I've lost out on. And given some of those courses that I would have done, it would have probably certification have been outdated by the time I leave. So I think timing is a good bit there as well.
I agree with that, but I also think it's quite easy to fall into that role. Do you know what I mean? And you just concentrate on military, whereas I think sometimes, and I find that it's happening more and more, especially with the soldiers that are joining, be proactive about it. You know, you do. It's easy to say, oh no, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next week, or I'll do it next month, or I'll do it next year. I'll concentrate on that. But actually, just be proactive about, be proactive about it in terms of do it in the evenings, do it over weekends. And I wish if I could go back and give myself advice, it would be exactly that: prep early. And
I absolutely agree with you, because if I was to go back, I would definitely do it the other way.
That's exactly it.
In terms of when you're in the boiling pot, it's like, oh God,
But I think that's what I'd do. I think I'd definitely go back and say, listen, figure out where you want to go and do some courses, do a degree, do something that will help you when you get out.
Definitely.
So,
absolutely. Okay, it's the last one.
You're lying.
Yes, I am lying. Okay, what was your biggest challenge when you first entered your first civilian job?
Wow, okay. It was navigating my work colleagues. Yeah. So we all have this persona. I think every military person, service leaver, veteran, you can point out a veteran in a crowd of 100 civilians. We have this persona about us. We have this aura. I don't know what it is, but you just know. And when I started with my first employer, I went there with the same attitude, the same kind of chilled back, kind of way that I was in the army, with the same jokes, with the same personality. And I realized very quickly that actually they don't find my jokes funny. Where I'm, on the floor rolling around, laughing my head off.
So what's wrong with
they're
you?
looking at me like, didn't even get it. So I think that was my biggest challenge, which was navigating other people and having to maybe dial down a little bit or just compromise to go into work. Not necessarily lose myself completely, but just realize that actually this isn't the military. You can't go in there the way you did with the military. I've got to go in there and I've got to kind of dial it down a little bit. These people don't understand anything that I talk about. All the, the shit that I come out with, all the, the little keywords and stuff like that. They don't know any of that. So I have to be conscious of them.
Yeah.
And just...
I get that. I absolutely get that. For me, obviously I haven't really experienced that because of, obviously
you naturally transition.
And certs, we smaller company, obviously we've
but I feel with certs, so everyone is just on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
Which is incredible. Like I walked in and I was like, oh my God, this is where I'm meant to be.
And I think that's sort of leading to another question. I'm sorry I didn't write these questions, but do you think as part of a transition though, identifying the type of business and the scale of business that you want to go into is important? Because, for example, I couldn't see myself in a bank.
I do, I do. And I think as well, I think there should be not necessarily training. Just ways to navigate, civilian life, but civilian companies, civilian employees, civilian managers, and there's certain things that maybe could be covered. But I agree with that. It's definitely something that might need to look at, because for myself, I was obviously with my previous company and it didn't work out, but I was the one who knew it wasn't working out and I wasn't happy there. So that I was the one who got up and left. But then now I know that it's because something else was waiting for me, and it was this job and it was this company. There's 7 veterans working for this company, which is incredible, but everyone else is on board and everyone else has the same values and the same laughs, and you can
culture,
swear, the culture, and you can swear and everyone is swearing with you, which is amazing, isn't it? Because then you're not chipping away at yourself to kind of align with other people who might not understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to sort of make the distinction that when we need to sort of switch and drop those swearing, because sometimes I challenge myself. I always fail. But how much I'm gonna get in today. But I think understanding the culture and the organization that we're applying for
really
is a key.
And again, maybe that's just doing a little bit of homework, isn't it? Before I'm just saying, digging in how many veterans work for the company, because if there's a load of veterans, then they're going to be on board with it.
It's a soft landing, right?
Of course it is, absolutely, absolutely. So I do agree with that completely.
It's good. It's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
We are almost there. I think we've got a couple left. Okay, so what one thing do you wish corporate companies knew about veterans and service leavers?
I don't think a lot of corporations understand the value and the amount of training, especially around leadership and management, that service personnel possess. And I think it would be good if we, even as certs, because obviously we're doing that form of forces, if we can sort of shed some light on the expertise. And there's a lot of companies out there that do it and some understand, but I think for a large majority of companies that don't. And that's to be expected, to be fair, because when you look at the population, not a lot of the population fully understand what a British service personnel does. If you were to say you're in the forces, I think the first thing would jump at someone's mind is, okay, guns, bullets and tanks and something like that. But obviously the everything else around those gun, bullets and tanks is key to what most organization would benefit from.
Exactly. I think they forget as well, though, that the MOD, the Army, the RAF, the Navy, it's an organisation, and it has to roll exactly the same as any other organisation. So they see these tough soldiers, Cam Cream on, going on exercises. Yes, they've chose to do that, but actually on the other side of it, it's just everyday running. The squadron needs running. The troops need running. Things need doing within the regiment. So like you said, that's where leadership comes into it, management, all that good stuff that organizations need and are crying out for. These service leavers and veterans have got all this in abundance.
The ability to stand in the fire and say, stop, something is going wrong, let's take a condor moment here, let's do it this way. And I think it would be good if lots of these organizations out here who are employing or thinking of employing military personnel, definitely take some time out to understand that a bit more.
I think that's where former forces comes in as well. I think now we want to push forward with that message, and constantly every day I'm hounding all these people from these companies, and I'm just like, we have these amazing people in our community who want meaningful roles, you know, give them the chance. You will see what we're seeing eventually, you know, just get on board with it.
Definitely.
So it's just, you know, getting there at the moment. But I think we're moving absolutely in the right direction.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Oh,
let's do it.
How did your leadership style change once you've left the forces?
Oh, okay. I don't think it did change.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really changed my leadership style. I think probably the way I do things maybe differently, but in terms of style, I don't think my leadership style has changed in any way. I've just kind of adapted it.
Yeah.
And I think that's not necessarily even, you know, to like, you know, companies. It's in everyday life of, you know, dealing with civilians in an everyday life, whether that's, you know, going shopping or, which you do anyway, but in the military, just like, but now it's as a civilian yourself, as a veteran yourself. So it, you know, it changes, but I don't think my style has changed. I think I've just adapted.
Oh, that's brilliant, to be fair. And while you were answering, I was here sort of reflecting, because obviously we left at the same rank, the same amount of years, that type of stuff. If I was to put myself leaving the military at a section commander level, I think it would be different, because while you were speaking, like throughout my latter years, we sort of developed that way of empathizing and communicating and leading slightly different, right? It changes. So, and I think at this stage we're pretty versatile in when to switch it and when to have that robust stand and when to be a little bit more diplomatic when we need to be.
I absolutely completely agree with that, because, you know, I think it's especially as soon as you kind of hit the senior levels and the you know, the jobs change slightly and you know, you're managing different people. It could be from people from the same corps as you, or it could be different corps, or it could be different services, you know, so you've got to adapt with that, and you learn from other people as well, don't you? So then when old people like us on stage,
dinosaurs, right?
Where we can just naturally kind of transition and carry that leadership style and that leadership skill over and use it into in the civilian companies that we work for. Yeah,
definitely. It's really key, and I think at our level, the ability to manage up, I think it's probably the only key bit that I would sort of mention at this level. But the younger levels would probably wouldn't have the exposure to manage up. So I think that would have been.
But it'll come though.
Definitely. Absolutely. There we go. I think you probably got the last one.
Look at that. You ready? You excited? Okay, so who was the most influential person you served with and why?
Wow. So there has been a couple of people who has been very influential in my life, not just my career, in my life. But I'm going to stick to career because I don't want to go all soft and mushy.
You can do that, you know. It's a safe environment here.
Is it safe?
Yeah.
No, brilliant. I think I'd probably link it back to that person we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think that situation and those 2.5 years that I spent with that particular sergeant at the time when I was a young soldier, I think it's shaped my career. It's given me the ability and the confidence to stand up to authority, not in a negative way, not in a horrible way, but in the correct way. So it gave me the confidence to do that, and by doing that, my reputation was built in a positive way. My standard remains the same, because once you build that reputation, you're going to keep that reputation. The standard has to match that reputation. And I think it's probably has helped to clear some path for me, brought me down areas where I wouldn't normally think I would be. For example, instructor at Sanders, when I joined up, I didn't think I would even think about that. When I just joined up, I didn't even know what Sanders was. And then years later, I was in and amongst it in Sanders. So I think it was that step, and where I think it was most influential at those early years, we're impressionable in the forces, and I think if it wasn't for that situation that happened and the way it was handled, I don't think I would have gone on a Carter.
Okay.
I don't think, absolutely wouldn't have gone on a Carter, actually. I'm pretty certain that the Carter that I went on, I wouldn't have gone on it.
Okay.
If it wasn't for that situation. And then I wouldn't have start getting the ranks and start climbing up the ranks. So I think that one, and it's funny when you say that, because looking back at it, it's funny how one incident, one scenario can sort of change. Yeah, change. And yeah, on the other side of that, coming to the end of my career, there was scenarios and situations that occurred, and I'm like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
You see both sides of the fence very, very quickly when you realize what's happening. Yeah.
I think it's hard really to pinpoint one individual, you know, especially like, so within my trade, you know, we were moving every 3 years, and it could be from one end of the country to the other side of the world. But there are people, you know, who I've served with who have been absolutely incredible leaders. And I'll always remember, you know, bits of what they did and how they kind of shaped me as a soldier to be where I was and to finish my career. But then on the other hand of that as well, that, you know, there were some absolute arseholes out there where you just thought you should never
absolutely
lead.
And I think we see that a lot. So my approach to that was to ensure that when we come across those absolute fucking assholes, excuse my language,
no, it's true,
I would sort of make a mental note of it and to say I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Because I have had scenarios where even sergeant majors and OCs, and when Squadron HQ becomes their puzzle palace and no one wants to go there. It was the very first thing I said to my OC when he came in. I'm like, this is not our puzzle palace. This HQ is not our HQ. It's for the squadron, and we'll sort of adapt an open door policy here. So even though you see the bad ones out there, we sort of learn from it and realize that no, we're here to support our subordinates and deal with
You've just got to keep fighting to prove that there are decent leaders out there. But yeah, no, I like that. I like that. It shapes you as a person because you can go down two routes, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go and become an absolutely incredible leader and do what you want to do, or you can follow them arseholes, like you said, and just become that person that everybody hates, and we'll be talking about it potentially in 10 years' time, doing something similar, being like, oh god, he was an absolute prick.
Definitely.
I mean? So
definitely.
Yeah.
But it is okay.
Smashed it.
That it?
Look
oh
at
god. All right, done.
I hope we've kind of answered some questions for people who are leaving the army, veterans as well. But if you found this content useful and you think that you could benefit from former forces, we are on LinkedIn. We're all individually on LinkedIn as well. If you can't find former forces, but just type in former forces, it'll come up. And subscribe, join, and message us, and we'll try and help you out in any way we possibly can.
Definitely. Spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spread the word.
Yeah.